and welcome to Chicago Reacts. My name is Lauren, and today I am going to be starting Bricky's video about Control. It's because his video was an hour and 10 minutes, and yeah, mine's gonna not be that long. So I'm gonna be splitting this in two parts, as I've done with a few of his other videos in the past. I'm looking forward to this. I feel like I've heard about this game. Like, the name sounds familiar to me, and I feel like I watched a video about it before, or like it was included before. It took me a moment. I found it. I watched a video essay by Jacob Geller that involved this game. So it was so long ago. It took me like 10 minutes to even like find it was listed. So I knew that this game sounded familiar. So I'm sure that there's going to be some like similarities between that video and this one, but this is it's a Bricky video, so it's going to be a little bit different. But yes, I'll link the Jacob Geller video below because that was so long ago. Oh my God, I was like, I knew I recognized the name. I just couldn't remember from what. So, all right, I don't really remember much about it. I think it's one of those that there's like a hallway that never ends or something. We'll find out by watching. How about that? Let's go.
Sup?
Hi.
Psst.
Oh, gamer sups.
Sups. That sup.
I hate it when it does this to me. I don't know why it does this to me
Gamer
sometimes.
Sups. That's right. You know how I always offer that 10% discount code? Well, that's just not enough for this week. So until this upcoming Friday, just in a couple of days, you can save 20%.
Couple of days, several years ago.
Off anything you buy from the GamerSub store using my code Bricky. That's right, 22% off anything in the entire store. That includes my personal flavor, the delicious cherry pineapple sweet 6-pack, both in regular and caffeine free. However, this is only a couple of days, so if you want to stock up and get your haul for 22% off, go ahead.
I'm sure it's still there in the GamerSubs, but it's not
use code Bricky for
discounted like that anymore.
And hey, if it's past, code Bricky will still get you 10% off everything in the store. GamerSubs, they're a great sponsor. Their products are good. My flavor is great, and they give me a huge commission. So you're supporting your boy in a huge way. Thank you.
Aika särkyy ikuisuuteen, laukaus kajahtaa. Se ei onnellista loppua, hän kohtaa milloinkaan. Täs pelissä tää narri lyö.
Beautiful song.
Maan aina vaan hetki kuolos.
Lex Luthor.
Sodan jotakas.
Oh, something bad's gonna happen to that guy, huh? He went through it, that man.
While hopefully enjoyable on its own, is a companion piece to other videos, the initial Alan Wake review and the DLC American Nightmare review. I would highly recommend watching this first before this one. Links in the description and the cards above. I've also made a playlist if that helps. Coming off of Alan Wake's American Nightmare, the game that punched my home and burned my dog, Remedy decided to release Quantum Break for the Xbox One in 2016. This game I remember very little of because I didn't play it. It also apparently does not add or expand upon the Remedy-verse, as we are calling it. Therefore, I skipped it in favor of their next game released in 2019, known as Control. Control released in summer and was published by 505 Games along with their usual cast of wacky, zany individuals in Remedy, including none other than Sam Lake, you hack! While the game is not a direct sequel to anything Alan Wake related and is not part of the same world as Quantum Break, it is still very important in the Remedy verse, and it goes a little something like this.
There's a hole hidden behind that poster that leads to the real world. We all feel safe in that room.
Interesting. Why?
But sometimes something crawls out from behind the poster.
Something from the real world crawls behind the poster?
And the ones that see it happen freak out and try to forget what they saw.
Control opens with a genuinely strange cutscene, including lots of very stark imagery centered around quick cuts and lots of red, gray, and white. You are at the Federal Bureau of Control, or FBC, also known as simply the Bureau. You play as Jesse Faden, this sharply dressed redhead here, and you are very excited to start your brand new job as a janitor's assistant.
Great.
There you are. You are here about the job. Janitor's assistant. You need to go to the interview. Go that way to the elevator.
Thanks. Elevator that way.
So she doesn't even have the job yet. She's getting interviewed to become the janitor's assistant.
Got it.
Very good. I'm Ahti, the janitor, by the way.
The entire opening
Never would've
of
guessed.
Control is it's really hard to explain without giving away everything. This is one of those games that is going to be coming at you at just lightning speeds with all kinds of questions. I have been in the game for 10 minutes and I am already lambasted with curiosity. And these aren't even normal questions like, who is Jesse? Why am I here? Where am I? No, it's much more concerning questions like, what the hell is the Federal Bureau of Control? What in the world is going on in this opening? Why is there an internal lockdown in this building? Why could Sam Lake
on your interview
not
day
resist himself?
We live in a room, and there's a poster on the wall.
Don't mention Shawshank.
We stare at it and
okay, good.
A few moments later.
Like in that movie, what is it called?
No!
The prison movie.
No way! Sam Lake, you hack! Why was there a painting here that...
I love Shawshank Redemption. I love that movie. If people ask me what my favorite movie is, I usually say it's Shawshank. Like, it's not a movie that I can rewatch like every day or anything. It's something that I definitely usually spend a few years between rewatches, but I like that movie a lot. It's heavy. It's a lot that goes on in that movie, but it's so well done.
Turned into a doorway, and oh, I don't know. Why can the funny Finnish janitor read my mind?
Ahti the janitor is a friendly face in my book.
Better than somebody with no face at all.
So yeah, like, considering I know what happens in this game, it's very difficult to not explain it all to you.
Is Jesse concerned by the fact that the janitor can read your mind? Or like, is that just, she's not concerned by that?
Right now for the sake of understanding how the game's plot progresses, but I'm
also Ahti, what a weird thing to say. I mean, he's a friendly face, better than someone with no face. My guy, hello, are you good?
Best. Rewatching the footage to put together the script actually gave me substantially more appreciation for the game. It gives you
actually really cool.
Of those, right. Moments.
I love it when that happens.
So you get an incredibly good opening credits and title card scene that just oozes style. You make your way to the director's office and you find him shot in the head, presumably taking his own life. I can't show you these things because
like the prison movie
demonetizes me immediately the moment I show any type of slip and slide. You then pick up his fire.
I've noticed like what I end up doing is I mean, you showed that. I usually put like I'll put a screen over it. It's like, oh yeah, filter, here you go. Just to make my life a little easier for things like Castlevania. It's like, filter.
Firearm and are treated to a multitude of cutscenes and explanations discussing what the hell is happening. The firearm that this man just used is explained by Dr. Darling, my beloved, played by the real live action.
Okay, so the Dr. Darling is going to be as good as our beloved from the last one, whose name I keep calling Benny, but it's not Benny. It's like Bernard or Bertrand. I can't remember his beloved from the last movie. I remember what he looks like and I remember things he said, but I cannot remember his name. I just remember them as Bricky's beloved.
Matthew Peretta, known for his incredible role as Alan Wake. Yeah, this is Alan Wake's VA. He's just here. This gun is known as the service weapon. It is.
Well, this one I might remember because it's Beloved Darling. So we're going to call him Dr. Beloved Bricky's Darling. That's too many things.
OOP, or Object of Power, and it can create AWEs, or altered world events. This object of power is the service weapon, which is a special object that once bound to the user will become the new director of the Bureau, chosen by the board, a gigantic pyramid that speaks with lots of slashes. Are you following?
No?
Neither did I. Terminology is something we're going to have to get really into here.
Okay,
So,
interesting. I feel like that's like Dune did that too, where it's just like it throws you into this world, like kind of expecting you to, and then it's just like all of the terminology in the world, and this is this and this is, but like it throws you in as like someone who's like, you definitely know what all of these things already are, and then you as the reader has to like figure it out. I say the reader because I have not watched Dune. I have just read the first book.
yes. Is
didn't like it very
session.
much.
An object of power, OOP, is an item that appears mundane, but is actually paranatural in some way or another. This is a very, and I mean very similar concept to the SCP fandom objects that you see floating around on the internet. For example, take my microphone. If it was an object of power, an OOP.
Ooh. What I would do with an object of power, a microphone, you could make it to be a hypnotizing of everybody. Yes? Like something like that? Is that what that would do? I think it should. I think that I think that OOPs should have something to do with the form that they take. So something like a microphone would allow me to hypnotize everybody. Like and subscribe to me. Like that.
It might have some fancy trait where if I speak into it at a certain volume, I am sent back 10 minutes in time.
Oh shit, I'm sorry.
Or maybe it turns me invisible.
No, I want it
Or
to do something.
everyone in a 10-mile radius.
That makes sense.
Or causes a thermonuclear detonation. All of those things I just said are
want it to be related to what the object is.
Altered world events. An altered world event are things that happen in a trans-dimensional style due to the effects of...
So would Harold's purple crayon? How do you say that word? Would that be an OOP thing? Because like he can use that to draw stuff, right? I feel like there's a lot of things out there where there's like a person who can use a specific pen to draw things into existence.
An object of power. So if my AirPods ran out of battery and then caused the whole town to go blind for a full day, that would be an object of power causing an altered world event.
Okay, so it also seems like these OOPs are more similar to things from like Anything Everywhere All at Once, where it's like doing something in a certain way, or like it creates a different universe because it's just like the most unlikely thing to do kind of thing, right? So it sounds a little bit, it's a randomized event that happens due to an object of power. Something happens with that object and then a random event happens. Okay.
An OOP causes an AWE, and then I receive CBT. The object of power that you've just picked up,
and then you need
is
some
the
THC.
service weapon. The service weapon is a firearm that has magical firearm properties, but it is more particularly the main weapon bestowed on the director of the Bureau. This is a Thor's hammer situation where you need to be worthy to become the director, or else you just die, stated here by Dr. Darling.
Okay.
The service weapon is, of course, a prime example of an OOP, a very powerful one. Ingrained in the Bureau's DNA, a key component in our prime candidate program. Come out of that Russian roulette a winner and you're it.
This is chosen by the board, the gigantic floating pyramid, which is a paranatural entity beyond our understanding, located in the dimension the astral plane, which you have just been teleported to right now. The astral plane is not only a totally different dimension, but it serves as the game's combat tutorials. Now that you have your own new object of power, the service weapon, you have been chosen by the giant pyramid that talks all funny, the board.
That was weird. It's you wield the gun, we wield you, or we wield the gun. You know, it's like, okay, you wield the, I think it's supposed to be you/we wield the gun, you/we wield you, or you wield the gun, we wield you.
chosen by the giant pyramid that talks all funny, the board, to become the new director of the Bureau. And your first order of business is to shoot shit. That was a lot of information. It took me longer than I'd like to figure it all out.
Also, it's like, yeah, giant, I'm starting to shoot people in my new job because the pyramid told me to. Okay.
I'm doing you a favor.
Okay.
Something's coming.
That was cool. I liked that. The lighting.
Attack. Duty as director. Keep the Bureau safe.
This is where we get to the meat of the game as the new director. It also means I don't need to be terminology Bricky anymore, and we get to talk about gameplay. Now, you're probably wondering how Control plays, considering it's a third-person shooter developed by Remedy, and Alan Wake was technically also that. Turns out Remedy have actually gotten a little better at their combat over the past, I don't know, a decade, because not only does Control's gameplay blow Alan Wake completely out of the water, it in its own right is fantastic.
Okay,
it's your pretty standard over-the-shoulder shooter, but it specifically harkens back to feelings of playing my dear darling Mass Effect. Not only does it look a lot like it, but it feels a lot like it as well, except Commander Shepard tank treads is not quite the case. You can move around easily and freely in your environment. Firing your service weapon is quick and sweet, and a particularly impressive thing to note is the destructive environment. It isn't destructive as a massive scale like a Battlefield game or an immersive sim, but it's visually impressive to watch as shots and melee attacks absolutely tear apart
that is really
all of
cool.
the areas of the map. Good old Jesse here.
I do like it when that happens in a game where it's like where your shooting actually does affect, you know, it affects the things around you, because it would, like, you it doesn't just like only affect the one thing you shot. And you know, because sometimes you'll play a game and like you shoot something and like there's like a soot mark on the wall, but no, let me explode a chair. Come on, let me have some fun with this.
Moves a lot more like a traditional third-person shooter game that just has a lot more smoothness to it. The crouching, the cover system isn't really anything to get excited about, but you aren't going to be spending a lot of time doing it because the way you move around and interact with the enemies is just miles above the previous stuff. When you get done with some preliminary combat, you actually enter a big fancy red room with a big giant pyramid on the top, and this room involves another kind of mini sort of combat with the craziness that the room has become, seeing it all weird and all placed around the place, before you cleanse this control point in the center and put the room back where it's supposed to go. After this, you get to meet Emily, who is a fantastic character that I genuinely think should have a hell of a lot more screen time.
And you entered the building when it was already in the lockdown before you became the new director? How?
I'm not ready to tell her about you yet.
A janitor let me in. I love it. This is fucking unbelievable. I can't even.
Side characters in Control are a bit of a weird thing. There are a couple side characters that are really engrossing and have a lot to offer, both to the narrative and in their performance. But those side characters are, ironically, not ones that Jesse interacts with. Emily, for example, is a great time. She's a complete nerd and just loves to talk about all kinds of science.
Her eyelashes are
She's
crazy.
generally relegated to giving you occasional side quests and answering a few of your questions and not much more. She doesn't really have a motivation outside of sciencing stuff.
It does seem like so far, just based on what we've seen, Remedy, I guess, doesn't have a great track record with consistent sidekicks. Like, they have there's usually, it seems like there's usually one or two good ones, but they don't know how to use those one or two good ones.
The strongest side characters in this game are Dr. Darling, my beloved, and Director Trench. But these are people that you do not speak with directly. It's also kind of funny because Control has excellent voice acting when you're not looking at people. It's rather difficult to appreciate how good this voice acting is when you are looking at the character and their voice does not sync up with their model. Unfortunately for Control, a lot of their budget went to the game's engine, how it looks, etc., and not the facial animations of basically anybody. Control had a
bummer.
budget of about $30 million, which is
Wow.
crazy to consider. That's not a particularly expensive game for what they're going for, but it's not really a cheap one either. Clearly, a lot of sections of Control look and feel very AAA, whether it's the graphics, art direction, voice acting, gameplay systems, environmental destruction, all that stuff is phenomenal.
This is when you give more people helmets. So they have less to animate. Like, that's why people do that.
But a corner had to be cut somewhere, and let me tell you, it's the faces.
Everyone's just have
Knew
Botox.
this was coming, or suspected. He came up with the HRAs, the Hadron Resonance Amplifiers. I think they're what saved us.
Yeah, everyone's on
Whatever he is.
Botox.
He mentioned something called the hotline.
It's what we call the power plant. You know, the big rumbling metal thing. Salvador, head of security, asked me to protect it in case of an attack.
Also, his head
Jessie
looks
in
too big for his
particular
body.
seems like she's chewing gum all the time. Her lower jaw just never wants to really be closed or stable at any point during her speech. Emily has her mouth open very wide all the time, just for the most part, and it's quite distracting with how flat and still all of their faces are. Like, this
Botox.
is very much a my face is tired level stuff. But as I mentioned, it unfortunately pulls away from what I consider to be very genuine voice acting of pretty much all the side characters when
pretty
speaking
cool,
with
though.
Jessie.
I'm here to perform the directorial override to get the lockdown lifted.
Yeah, Chief Arish, FBC Security. I'm just... Oh, hang on, you're the new director. It's a pleasure.
Hi, Rish.
Ma'am.
Let's skip the formalities, please.
Right. Faden.
Hey, Faden.
Like, when they're talking with her, their conversations feel real. They feel like they have all those mannerisms, like breathing out a little bit, or small chuckles, or little clicks with their mouth. Everything comes out so realistically, but then you're watching these cardboard faces on them and it completely throws you out. It is a very strange thing to see. But
That is
our story
I don't
continues.
like that
Jessie
coat.
has
That yellow
to
coat
go
was weird.
out and basically try to fix all the craziness that has happened with this new enemy that we've called the Hiss. And whatever it's doing to take over people, Jessie is immune to. But she can't necessarily
good for
save
her.
anyone either. The only people that are not affected outside of Jessie are those wearing the funny little microphones that Emily is wearing, called HRA devices. So in order to find a way to stop the Hiss, we are looking for the hotline, another object of power, which is this old school rotary telephone kind of sort of thing that allows the director to communicate immediately with the board, giant pyramid, remember, or the dead.
Ah, what?
In game, it's a very cool way of storytelling. Whenever you see any clips that have Director Trench on it, played by James McAfee, rest in peace, of course, his stuff is all from the hotline, post-death, him helping out Jessie from beyond the grave. And that in its own right is a really neat concept, especially mixing with the awesomeness that is the way the board talks. But first, before we get anything hotline related, we get to get a new object of power, the Soviet floppy disk. And let me tell you, this thing, this is the reason you play Control.
Oh.
I see you!
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Die!
See, the problem I have with BioShock is that there's too many good plasmids to use, but being able to telekinetically do anything would honestly probably be the one that I would use IRL if ever I could get, you know, a superpower. Other than shapeshifting. Shapeshifting would probably be my first one, but then telekinesis right after that.
That's right. You have full-on telekinesis powers. You can grab anything in the room and throw it at people. And let me tell you, it never gets old. Launch is one of the neatest aspects of Control for a variety of reasons. It is not only a major thing used in the puzzles of this game, as well as traversal, but it is also a constantly adaptive weapon. The game has a fun way of like cheating by no matter where you are, it will find something for you to grab out of the middle of nowhere. Like it'll grab a chunk of rock or something's off the ground, off screen, and pull it to you. Now, granted, as cool as this is, it does require energy, so you can only throw things so often, but it creates cool situations where, you know, sure, you can just chuck a bunch of rocks and stuff at people, it's effective, but if you want to be tactical about it, have a fire extinguisher or some kind of bomb. Hell, grab injured enemies and throw them at the nose.
I do that in BioShock. Yes, ha! Get them. I do use bodies a lot in BioShock if I'm playing that game. I do that all the time. I'm better at grabbing the bodies than I am the bombs that they're throwing at you.
Both options are very viable. This is why I think Control does its best whenever it's trying to be some kind of power fantasy. You know, you're not really having a cover system or trying to bounce between different options of cover because you don't really need to take much cover. You are a crazy telekinesis SCP director lady with a changeable gun and the Force.
I mean, I guess you could fly with telekinesis, right? I think that's how Superboy does it, right? He uses his TTK to like hover and fly.
Who needs taking cover? And also, like, it just makes the coolest sound.
Oh, that is a cool noise.
What?
I do like that noise.
And now for something completely different.
Okay, something completely different. Let's go. Bricky.
So you make your way to the hotline and you utilize a very special object of power, the light cord. 3 pulls and you get transported to the Ocean View Motel. This is basically a gateway between dimensions, and it's an incredibly interesting narrative device to use, as you have this fancy black pyramid as one of the doors, and that's for the most part the only one you ever get to open. But the design of this area is just extremely unique, and it's always an enjoyable time coming back here because it's a cool concept for a dimensional gateway, and sometimes it's just a little weird.
A pull cord, boom, boom, boom. I mean, I usually think of a pull cord as like, leads you into an attic, or turns on the light, but like it's kind of a different dimension. Attics are weird.
Binding the hotline to yourself allows you to utilize it in game, not just as a way for you to re-listen to statements on the board, but also because it speaks with the dead. So Trench from the afterlife is giving you advice and helping you figure out your next move.
It is a phone. It's an object of power. It doesn't connect to any typical network. A direct line to the astral plane and the board. And my hypothesis is, under the right conditions, to other planes of existence as well.
This is NORAD.
A director needs a team. My management team. These people know the secrets of the Bureau as well as I do. Some even better.
So far, Control has been an incredibly engrossing game. Its gameplay is excellent and far better than previous titles. The art design is some of the best I have ever seen. This enjoyable combination of 80s Cold War aesthetic mixed with brutalism and a ton of gray, white, and red. It gives this feeling that no other game has. Unfortunately, this is one of its faults because Control blows its load incredibly quickly and takes a lot longer to recover than I'd like. There has been so much that we've discussed already between the SCP objects of power, mixing with the alternate dimensions, the altered world events, the board, the Bureau, all under the roof of the oldest house, which in its own right is an entity we haven't even talked about yet.
No, we haven't.
Shift and move as they
kind
do
of remember the
this
oldest house thing.
shifts and moves because it's basically alive. The building you're in is completely dead center in New York City, and nobody can see it because it does not want to be seen. And also, we're actually in modern day. All the 80s stuff, yeah, that's because the oldest house doesn't like high-tech shit. So they have to use all this older technology, which gives you the ability to have Cold War art direction while being in modern day, which is just so badass. You'll even...
It does make sense a little bit more of like what her style was walking in as opposed to what other people are dressed as.
Notice that a lot of the guards walking around have old Lewis guns as their weaponry, but
I wouldn't have noticed
it's a little hard to explain the oldest house, so I mean, I could just get some help.
Fixed. Building shifts occur at random and without warning, but with the Bureau's cutting-edge technology, we can stabilize the oldest house. Safe employees are happy employees.
The game.
What was that? That was terrifying. I did not like the animatronic, the claymation skeleton with the baby doll mask. And why was the guy screaming? What was that?
Game comes at you so hard and so fast that all of this jargon, all of these definitions, all of these characters, both in-game and live action, are swelling into your brain. And while it is really exciting, it's a lot of momentum that the game can't keep up with. Now, normally I would applaud a slower pace after something so exciting to relax the viewer, and indeed we will touch on that later, but this is the wrong kind of slowdown. There are a total of 10 major story missions in Control. Once you've received the hotline, you completed mission 2. Act 2 of the game goes from mission 3 through probably around mission 6, and unfortunately, it's not very interesting. When I look back at the footage for the game, I was just so enraptured by the opening that I kind of forgot I basically did diddly dick for multiple hours in the middle section of Control. You're told to go seek out Trench's team. In doing so, you get a couple of pretty awesome new powers, such as like a quick dash, as well as a big old rock shield. You go to the maintenance sector and stop the oldest house from blowing up. You then go find Marshall and help her make some more HRA devices to keep people alive. Wait, how many are there in total? 4? I have 4 of the 5.
So you need to find all the punch.
I got it, lady. I'm working on it.
Thank you.
Don't rush me. Our use dimensions.
Each punch card should correspond to a terminal.
Yeah, I got that.
Thank you.
These whiteboard drawings may be important.
Oh my god, that would drive me crazy. It's like, okay, look, can I toggle tutorials on and off? Like, I know. Like, I feel like if you're not taking too long about it, it shouldn't start talking at you, you know? Just let me do it. Just let me do it.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah, if you have the 2 on the right, I looked at that whiteboard. Oh my god. Like the Triforce one over there.
Marshall, shut up about the whiteboards.
Make those devices because you don't have enough of something called BlackRock, and so you need to go get that BlackRock to then go make more devices. Only then, after doing all of that, do you end up doing what you came here to do. Now, it's not all bad. You do get to meet Arish, who's a fine character, very well voice acted, but much like Emily, doesn't do a whole lot in the actual game. Marshall also is a decent character, who's also well voice acted and quite a hard ass, but doesn't do a whole lot.
Except for
But
talk
we
about
haven't even
whiteboards.
discussed why Jessie is here. And I think that's one of the issues I have with her character. Jessie is a tough character to talk about. Some people love her unconditionally, and some people think she's flat as a board. This isn't quite the time to go deeper into that. We'll touch on that later. Okay. But the reason she's here, the reason she's even at the FBC, is because she's looking for her missing younger brother. The building that never wants to be found was found because Jessie has a voice in her head she calls Polaris. When she was a younger kid, she and her brother lived in the town of Ordinary. Sam Lake, you hack, and found
Well, I mean, there's towns that are called things like that. There's a boring Maryland. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's definitely a town called Ordinary somewhere. Let's find it. Let's find it. According to Wikipedia, Ordinary, Virginia. There's also one in this game, but like, the real Ordinary is in Virginia. A real town. Fuck off AI. Yep, Virginia. Gloucester County, Virginia. All right. So, see, I figured it out. And don't... Okay, you can't see them. I've got 10 million tabs open. But you can't see them because the little bar covered it up.
An object of power that was a slide projector. The slide projector actually made gateways to other dimensions, each of them being an individual slide. By messing with
That's really cool.
kids straight out of a Stephen King book, because, you know, Sam Lake, you hack! They caused all kinds of issues, like their friend turning into a melted dog.
Why are we... Okay, let's go Full Metal Alchemist, huh? Oh my god, okay. All right, that's interesting though. See, I kind of like the slide projector using the slides to open new gateways. That makes sense because again, like I said, I really like it when the power is at least tangentially related to the shape of the object. So like the hotline makes sense. The slide projector makes sense. I guess the gun even kind of makes sense because, you know, a regular gun will, when shot at a person or object, will change the state of its being. So that tracks too.
And causing every adult in the entire town to disappear. Since the Federal Bureau of Control is the combination of Gatekeeper and Gestapo, they came in, interrogated them, and kidnapped her brother away 17 years ago as she was able to miraculously escape them. With all the slides burned by Jessie except for one, where she found Polaris, eventually, years later, Polaris sent her to the oldest house to get her brother back. It's a 17-year revenge story slash I'm coming to cause problems kind of situation. Now, it's revealed not too late that she's here for her brother Dylan. She tells Emily at the end of mission 3, and therefore she's instructed to go talk to Marshall, who should have better knowledge about Dylan's whereabouts. But once you talk to Marshall, the main goal here is to get more HRAs produced so that people aren't going to have issues with being infected, but then you can't have enough HRAs produced, so you go do this entire Blackrock mission, and while it's albeit very pretty in a cool area, it's just not part of the main story, and only then are you told about Dylan's whereabouts.
So basically what I'm hearing is that this game could have used an edit or 3 just to sort of streamline it a little bit, or make some of these side missions not necessary is probably what could have happened. Is like make them, if you want to do that you can, but you can also focus on the main mission.
This wouldn't be so much of an issue if it wasn't compounded by another major problem of Control, which is just navigating the world. Control's map
I'd be bad at that.
Not great.
Nope,
I honestly
that looks
call it
awful.
Pretty bad. And being able to get around a lot of areas, maintenance specifically, is tedious as all hell. If
And
you
I
look
would get
at the
so
map,
lost.
just a screenshot here, you're probably thinking, well, you're in the blue area right now. But no. You're not in the blue area. That represents the above section. And the grayed out areas are the below section, which is even more infuriating when you're in an area that has a ton of floors. This makes it even worse.
That's usually backwards. Usually the grayed out sections are not where you're at. What?
Worse, because Control seems like it maybe wanted to be a Souls game at first, or at least borrow a few of their mechanics. The individual control points that you cleanse kind of feel like bonfires. You do a lot of upgrading when you're there. You level up your character when you're there, and also whenever you die, you get sent back to one. There is also a slight resource situation where the more things you kill, the more of this currency you gain, but when you die, you lose a little bit of that currency. So with a bit of those combinations, it makes you think that maybe in the really early stages of this game, they wanted to make it with a similar mechanic to this, but it ended up getting scrapped later on through development.
Were those people in the walls? I didn't like that.
It does mean that every time you die, it's a particular pain in the ass because you get sent back to these control points that are not too abundant, and apparently on release were even more lacking. They're not scarce enough to the point where they're huge important things you gotta be really careful about and worry about your health and all that, but they're not common enough to alleviate the annoyance of dying. This compounded with Control's not great map means that you'll be doing a bit more confused wandering than you'd probably like. Most objectives give you
I would
just
die a lot.
general idea
frustrated.
of where they are, having a large yellow icon in that section, and you just kind of need to figure it out on your own. But the game also isn't a very exploring kind of game. It's got secrets and hidden areas and all that, but it doesn't feel like an exploration game, even though it tries to be. So while in the beginning of the game, things are feeling fantastic, but with time, each individual mechanic feels like it's only at 70% strength. It's as if they wanted to be 6 different games and couldn't decide on which was the standout. So the game feels like it's a half-baked version of 6 different concepts. Are we a Souls-like checkpoint system equipped with central executive that's definitely not Firelink Shrine? Maybe a little. Are we an exploration game with hidden items and upgrades for that? Sometimes. Are we an open world game with fast travel? Here and there.
There's fast travel in this too? Okay, wow. Wild.
Metroidvania, where you get upgrades and movement tools to go back and do stuff? sometimes. We haven't even touched on upgrades
weird.
either. Upgrading Jesse is easy. It's the usual currency you gain, but weapons actually have mods and resources, and these resources can only be found in certain areas. So there's also a farming section of the game too, but it's only half-baked. Enemies don't spawn reliably, so farming a certain material isn't reliable and honestly rather tedious. So we can add Are We a Weapon Farming Upgrade System game to that list. So that's why Act 2 of the game is such a difficult one, because it's mostly busy work with mechanics that are starting to show their biggest issues, and all the while not aiming for the main objective of the story. Remedy
it's just a little too
had
long.
a lot of cool ideas they wanted Control to be, and in the end, by adding all of them, it comes off as directionless. But if those fins are good for one thing, it's making a baller janitor, and at least you get to work for him a bit.
Yes, yes, easy peasy. It's just around the corner. But first, we need to get you working. Very small, couple of hours job.
Something tells me it's gonna be more than that.
Yeah, just a bit.
Yaha, you think there's a dog buried in this? I can tell you are not yesterday's Krause's son.
He sends you to go kill a shit monster, so, you know, I mean, that's pretty cool.
Thanks.
The great mighty Pooh.
I guess now would be a fun time to talk about something a
Okay,
bit more
that's a
enjoyable
little
that
Resident
you see a lot
Evil-y.
of during this section of the game. Let's talk about Dr. Darling, my beloved, and Director Trench. These are the two live-action sequences that exist in the game, and it's kind of crazy how well they fit. Live action segments in games is often not a very good idea, as they feel very out of place, but these don't. And that could simply be because they're filming in such a bizarre way. One of them is like an old school science experiment, and the other...
And also, if the game itself is supposed to be sort of like, it's set in the real world, but like it's not, like this part is not the real world, it kind of is a James and the Giant Peachy sort of situation where like she walked into this building and is no longer live action herself, you know? Like, that could be a way to get your brain around it.
Or it's like a dream sequence. It could also be that I'm just used to it after playing Alan Wake 1 as well as the American Nightmare. But both of these sections are very enjoyable. Director Trench is played by James McAfee, who is the voice of Max Payne and has unfortunately passed away rather recently, which makes it even more sad how well he killed his role. He was fantastic. He's clearly a traumatized man as he discusses things like his family and his work, but his input is invaluable, and he's played with such a strong, gruff demeanor that you can't help but just eat it up whenever he's on screen.
This threat could destroy the Bureau, everything I've built. Destroy me. A web spun, turning this place against me.
Dr. Darling is a great contrast as he is a complete goofball with the same voice as Alan Wake because he's played by Matthew Peretta, who plays Alan Wake. Except in his live action roles, he's normally showing off various things like objects of power, how they work, or other experiments that go along with the story. Dr. Darling was actually nominated for a Performance of the Year in 2019 when Control came out.
Cool.
And at the beginning, it might seem like he's just a general scientist type, but as the game goes on, it very intelligently adds more and more recordings of Dr. Darling going through the issues presented recently. There's a lot of reasons why he's Dr. Darling, my beloved. His astounding performance is part of that, but also just how he changes as a character throughout the game is really intriguing. He's clearly a man who appreciates the sciences and what's going on
his
here.
nerdy sweaters.
He's so excited to learn about. Like, it's multiple dimensions and all kinds of crazy stuff that was only in fairy tales.
I will dedicate.
You good?
I'm never going home.
But when that comes to bite him, it can get pretty dark. Now, the real reason he's my beloved is later on, but I can't spoil that part. It's revealed throughout the game that Director Trench made a mistake and brought work home with him, so to speak, which cost the life of his daughter and had his wife divorce him. Fearing to make the same mistake, Dylan, who clearly was kidnapped by the Bureau, was sent to be raised by Dr. Darling. Of course, raised by basically means the same thing they did to Eleven in Stranger Things. Certain individuals in Control are para-utilitarian, which means means that they have the ability to use fancy psychic powers and all other kinds of jazz when binding with an object of power. Jesse is clearly one of these people, but Dylan is one of these as well.
Makes
and they
sense.
have been grooming him, no, not that way, to have him become the director in Trench's stead. When you go look for him in the Panopticon, he is part of the Prime Candidate Program, which is why he is labeled as P6. The Panopticon is actually a really cool place. You get to see a ton of other objects of power and how they're kept secure. It's unfortunate though, because it is managed by a fucking Redditor, but you do get some neat stuff like the Weeping Angel SCP, because of course you do, and it's a giant fridge with Giga Chad Phillip here watching it for a full 24 hours without blinking because the Redditor forgot he was even there.
Oh no! Get Philip out of there! Oh no!
Shit, I forgot about fridge duty.
But in the case of Dylan, that does mean that the last 17 years has been under the guise of Dr. Darling and his crew, which were
Philip,
not the best parents.
Dylan? What did they call his name? Whatever. Yeah, Dylan. It's right on the screen in front of my face, you dumbass. Anyway, read the words. Yeah, he's gonna be traumatized AF, huh?
And when you see the media they showed him in order to describe what was going on, it becomes pretty clear that they didn't quite know what they were doing.
Some brains can talk to each other. We call this ESP.
ESP?
And if your brains are just right, you'll get to sit in the big chair.
What if I don't want the big chair?
Everyone wants the big chair, Hank!
Hey, Mr. Bones, what time is recess? So yeah, that didn't work, and Dylan ended up killing a bunch of people and was considered no longer a proper option for director. I don't need to tell you why. When you finally reach his
My guess is because he killed people.
cell, he is no longer there. He's escaped, yet has been infected with the hiss and has made his way back to Central Executive, where he turned himself into Emily and is back in temporary confinement. Bit of a curveball here, and a little annoying that we had to go through all of this for him to not even be there and be back in Firelink Shrine. But the game makes up for this in the fact that Dylan rocks.
This is an ordinary song about an ordinary girl from an ordinary town. It's the ordinary story. She worked an ordinary job in an ordinary office and something, 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 something. And that's all I can remember of that dream.
Dylan
Wow. Terrifying and sad.
is the best performance in the game, in my opinion, outside of Dr. Dolly, my beloved. I think the reason for this is because his bizarre demeanor works with the facial animations. Him looking hollow and stunted actually is accurate for what this traumatized kid infected by the hiss, raised by scientists in a lab, would look like. You don't really get a clear conversation with Dylan, as the hiss has definitely taken its toll on his brain.
Stop it! Shit!
But you can come back to him a few times for interesting conversations about his dreams. Some are enlightening, some are a bit meta, and one really stands out.
I was in a dark place, and there was a dark man there. His name was Mr. Door.
I will say this part's a bit short. Jessie is here for her brother. She spends all of this time to get her brother, and when you finally do get Dylan, all you really get out of it is a couple conversational pieces and his delirious dream rambles. The only tangible information you received from Dylan is that the slide projector from Ordinary was brought back to the FBC, which in fairness is a pretty big deal. But to put this in perspective, this is the beginning of Mission 7 and the start of Act 3. It's a relatively weak reveal despite it being your main objective. Like, you spend 6 full missions, 2 full acts, wanting to get Dylan back, and when you finally do, he's not there, already turned himself in, and then just kind of talks random gibberish. Now, this difficulty is only compounded because the next part of the game is you finding the Ordinary AWE that they have built in the FBC. But for the entirety of Mission 7, your goal is to, of course, find the slide projector, which when you get to the end of the mission in Dr. Darling's lab, it's no longer there.
Oh,
So
of
that's
course
another time in which we've done an entire mission to get something that isn't there. More than anything, this served to give us a lot of the backstory to how the Bureau handled the situation in Ordinary, and naturally, as a giant shady organization, it wasn't done well or with much tact.
Shocking.
A dump is a place for lost things. Things that have been thrown away.
Were you a dump?
Did you ever feel that way when you were growing up, Jesse?
Sam Lake, you hack. What we do learn is that the slide projector and the last remaining slide has been moved to dimensional research through a fancy thing called the ashtray maze. Now, this maze is entirely to be utilized by the director and is unsolvable unless you have bound this cigar and ashtray to yourself.
Which Jesse doesn't
Who
find.
else to get through this than the man of the house himself, Ati the janitor. The mission is called Finish Tango for a reason. You follow the visions of Ati to a restricted area maintenance that, by golly, sure looks like Ash Lake, doesn't it? But before you meet your lovely boss, you need to go to a combat trial, and this is the perfect time to discuss the combat of Control in the depth I've been wanting to.
Okay, great. So, right before we start to combat, I think this is what I'm going to have to call it for today. I've been filming for about 50 minutes, which is long. And so, yeah, I'm going to call it here for now. I will be back tomorrow probably for the rest of this. We're going to start on combat next time, which is great. I feel like this is a good place to stop. The story is so interesting. I'm like, I am fascinated. I'm like, the only reason I'm stopping now is because of like various, like my rehearsal schedule and like some other things that are happening. It's like, I've got some stuff that has to happen today, and I do not have time to do it tomorrow, and it needs to be done before then. So, okay, we're doing it. We're stopping. This was fascinating so far. I'm really interested in seeing what happens next. So stick around, and I will do the next part soon. I mean, I'll probably film it tomorrow or the next day, the next day, because I don't have time to do it tomorrow. You don't need to know my whole schedule. It's fine. We're calling it here. I cannot wait to continue. I'll see you soon.